Kristina Rinaldi. She is the executive director for the Detroit Dog Rescue. This lady is your Wonder Woman, Kristina. How are you this morning?
You are. I'm so happy to be talking to you. You have no idea. It's so good to talk to you and so good to be here today. And I can't thank you enough for always spreading the word about Detroit Dog Rescue. You are one of our biggest champions, so thank you.
And, I forgot to wear my sweatshirt today. My husband bought me one last year, and I was like, I forgot to wear my sweatshirt.
No. That just means we have to get you more gear. Don't worry.
Exactly. So, Kristina, I'm sure there are not very many people who aren't familiar with DDR, but for those that aren't, explain a little bit about your rescue and what makes you so different.
Absolutely. So for the last 10 years, Detroit Dog Rescue has been the first no-kill shelter in the city of Detroit. And what that means is we are an actual shelter. We have a brick and mortar building. We're working on a second one right now. But what that means is we really seek out alternatives to euthanasia, whether that's rehabilitation, whether that's community outreach and keeping pets in their home. We really do everything we can to keep pets out of shelters, but also to avoid euthanizing dogs in the city of Detroit. Now, we assist Detroit Police, the Detroit Fire Department, and of course, Detroit Animal Care and Control. And we've even worked with the mayor of Detroit to make things better for pets and their people.
Christina Rinaldi with us on the Oakland County MegaCast, joining us throughout the local area today on a variety of TV and radio stations, as well as the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield School District. And we thank them for joining us on today's program. So, Kristina, over the course of the pandemic, a lot of community organizations for humans and for animals have faced a variety of challenges. The dogs and puppies in our local area that don't have homes still have those same issues with not being in their forever homes during the pandemic as they do before and after one. How have you addressed those challenges over the course of the pandemic? And what are some of the ones that maybe people in the general public like Ronnie and I maybe aren't even thinking about with regards to these animals?
That's a great question. So at the start of the pandemic, actually, a lot of people were interested in bringing a dog or a puppy into their home, whether it was fostering or adopting. I remember the first 2 days of the governor's orders to shut down, we received 300 applications to foster and adopt at Detroit Dog Rescue. So we were able to get a lot of dogs into homes. And what we did is we created this emergency relief plan with Detroit Animal Care and Control to get more dogs out of their municipal shelter where they might be in danger of being euthanized. And they've done a great job. So by working together, we really mitigated euthanizing a lot of pets and brought a lot more animals into our shelter. But it goes farther than that. As we've progressed over the last 6 or 8 months, we're seeing, unfortunately, people have a loss of income. People's lives have completely changed. A lot of people, I know, especially in Oakland County, in our area, may have adjusted their work schedules to teach their children, or myself included. And what we saw, again, was a loss of income. We had really great pet owners in Detroit, people who loved their dogs, but they just needed 3 or 6 months worth of dog food to get by. I think we take for granted how much really dog food and pet products and pet care cost. So we help to mitigate that cost by providing our outreach families with food or vaccinations, pet licenses, things like that, to really relieve some of that stress of owning a pet. It's something that we did when Detroit Dog Rescue started during the foreclosure crisis. We started in some of the worst economic times in Detroit. And what we did is we really worked with families, and we really worked with people who loved their pets so they could keep their pets in their home. And I think that's important to remember. Nobody wants to euthanize animals in the shelter. And one of the ways to avoid that is by realizing that sometimes first home is best home. If you have a dog and you're a great pet owner and your dog loves you and you love your dog, the last thing I want to do is take your pet out of your home and put it in my shelter. Now, if I need to help raise funds to provide your dog with medical care or food, but you're providing love and attention to your dog, why would I ever want that dog in the shelter? And what I love is we get to keep up with these outreach families. So throughout the pandemic, we were able to check in on everybody and really help keep pets with their people. And that's so important to me and the entire crew at Detroit Dog Rescue.
So, Kristina, I would imagine that, like you said, you had a lot of people who came and got the dogs, and maybe they were the foster parents who then became a foster fail like we did with Trixie.
Right.
6 months later, the dog is still with us, and now she's a part of our family. But when you do foster or you do get a dog from a shelter, sometimes they come with behavioral issues that can make keeping that dog challenging. What advice do you give to some parents, or new pet parents, I should say, when they do get one of these dogs, and how can they train them so that they do stay in that home and they don't end up back at the shelter?
I love that question. When Detroit Dog Rescue started, most of us were new to this. We had volunteered with animals, but we were new to this. And what I did is I really immersed myself in trainers from Michigan State, certified trainers, veterinarians, to see what would be the best outcome for these pets. And what I determined is not only did Detroit Dog Rescue have the responsibility of rescuing these dogs, I needed to create an entire training department at Detroit Dog Rescue that not only works with the dogs that are in the shelter, but works with our fosters. So at Detroit Dog Rescue, we provide the medical care, we provide the food for our fosters, but I also have trainers if we're having a potty issue or a fear issue with the dog. Our trainers will go out to the house and help. Now, not everybody offers that, understandably, and it can be challenging to bring a new pet in your home. And what I always recommend is look up, and we have resources on our website, DetroitDogRescue.com, enrichment. I always stress giving your pet enrichment. A lot of us are home. We're on our computers just like I am now. We have that foster dog or that adopted dog running around, wanting our attention. It's amazing what a Kong or a Frisbee filled with peanut butter, or what we call enrichment boxes, which are cardboard boxes filled with fun things. And if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see I post a lot of these ideas. Everybody thinks your dog needs to get out for a 6-mile walk, when really they need their brains worked. I always equate it to, are you more tired when you go for a 3-mile walk, or are you more tired if I gave you 1,000 math problems you had to figure out? So really using your dog's brain, and maybe being guided by a force-free certified trainer, they're called CPDT trainers, is always a good idea. And we have a ton of these resources at DetroitDogRescue.com. And what we even decided, since there are so many new fosters and new adopters during the pandemic, we're going to be creating a lot of YouTube videos and things like that we'll be sharing through our social media at Detroit Dog Rescue to help, again, keep pets in their home.
Yeah, the YouTube videos and the gentle leader have saved us, because we've never had a big dog before. We always had Cocker Spaniels. So then we get this. We've decided we're making Trixie a designer dog. We think
I love her.
She's a mutt, but we're like, they think she's a Schnauzer lab, which is interesting, and she's 65 pounds. So we're like, she's a Schnauzerdor. And so instead of a doodle, she's a Schnauzerdor. And
a Schnauzerdor, I mean, that's perfect. And her fall pictures are making my life on the regular on social media. So she's adorable.
Yeah, Trixie has her own Twitter page too. It's 8-Legged Trio, if anyone wants to follow her on Twitter. But I will say, one of the things I know that the last time we were at Union Lake, we took her for her training, and I saw your DDR band there. So I know you guys go there as well. Love the staff at Union Lake. They're amazing. But one of the things that we experienced, and I'm wondering if this is happening to other people, is during the pandemic, you still can't go in to the vet with your pet. And so when she had to go in for her shots, she became aggressive, and they had to muzzle her. And ever since then, we've been having problems with her because of that fear factor. And there's still no discussion as to when we're going to start being able to go into the vets with our pets. But are you having those experiences as well with some of your shelter dogs that you're taking there?
Absolutely. We are at Detroit Dog Rescue. There's very few of us that are allowed to go in, part of our medical team at Detroit Dog Rescue. Like you said, we use Union Lake and Greenfield Animal Hospital, and they do allow us to go in with some of our dogs. But I have had friends call me, adopters call me, and fosters call me with that same issue. So that is a very valid issue. And we're going through a really hard time where vets don't have all the answers, vet techs don't have all the answers, but we're doing the best we can to keep everybody safe. My best advice is to try going forward to make positive associations with your dog and the veterinarian. Even, this sounds silly and crazy, if you have some extra time, putting your dog in the car and driving to your veterinarian's parking lot, like you're getting ready to go to the vet, and then giving them some cut up chicken in the parking lot, even taking them out of the car, walking them around the building, but giving them chicken. So to dogs, chicken and hot dogs, that's like $100 bill to them. And I equate it like, if you were scared of spiders and every time you saw a spider, I gave you $100, you would be like, okay, spiders aren't so bad after a while. So that chicken is kind of like your dog's $100. So if you can bring them to the vet for now and make positive associations with the place, that might, at least in the outside perimeter, that might make things a little bit easier. I always say muzzling is not a bad thing anytime you are taking your dog to the vet. Muzzles seem to have gotten a bad rap, but I 100% would rather see a dog in a muzzle than a dog be potentially dangerous and be put in a difficult situation. And muzzles are starting to be welcomed by the community more. I've even seen this great thing called the Muzzle Project, where people will buy like a basket muzzle and they'll wrap it with like duct tape, comes in all kinds of patterns now, and they'll intricately wrap it with like tie-dye or sparkles to make it look less. I think when we see a dog in a muzzle, we get very fearful, but it makes it look less intimidating and it's really fun. But it's so hard to let our dogs go. It's like letting our child go to the doctor by itself, and you can't be there to comfort them. I think that's been one of the hardest things during the pandemic, and hopefully you work with a vet team that you trust. But we have seen that with some of the dogs, and it's the harder part of the pandemic, definitely. I'm there with you.
Kristina Rinaldi with us. She's the executive director of the Detroit Dog Rescue, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. So you talked about earlier that in the early portions of the pandemic, there was a rush to adopt pets as people were at home and had some time to acclimate these animals to their homes. Now that we're a little bit calmer in the pandemic and maybe there's not as much of a rush now, has the process changed at all as a result of the pandemic or because of the circumstances of the pandemic in terms of going through that adoption process and meeting with Detroit Dog Rescue and meeting with these animals so that you can know if the personalities of the potential pet owners and these animals are compatible?
Another just really great question. We knew when the pandemic hit that there were a lot of dogs in our shelter and a lot of dogs in the municipal shelter in Detroit that needed to get out. And we knew that we had to get creative and we needed to pivot our processes a little bit. And what that included is we came up with the fantastic idea of why can't we do virtual adoption? So at Detroit Dog Rescue, we do a home check, we do animal introductions before the dog is adopted, possibly do a sleepover to make sure the dog is a right fit for the family and the family is a right fit for the dog. So what we had to switch to was virtual adoption. And what that means is we had to introduce people to the dogs via whether it was FaceTiming or Zoom, and then that person would take their phone around and we would actually do a home check, make sure the fence was the right height. We would talk to a landlord if a landlord needed to be involved and make sure it was a right fit for the dog. And then we actually created a leash system in the very beginning of the pandemic where we didn't have to touch the same leashes. We had very little information about coronavirus at the time. Now we know it's spread more through respiratory than touching items, but we still were very careful and we still were able to get just dozens and dozens of dogs into homes. But, you know, I think that's a part of dog rescue. I think that's a part of any business is you're going to have unexpected challenges and you're just going to have to pivot your processes. That's how I always put it. But we did have to change a lot. We still are doing virtual adoptions. We are not holding any on-site adoption events at any pet stores or anything like that. I will say October 1st through October 4th, we are working with the Bissell Pet Foundation. They are paying all of the adoption fees. So if you are interested, check out our dogs at DetroitDogRescue.com. You can fill out an application today. We'll call you and we'll start the process so you can have your adoption fee waived.
You do so much great work with so many other organizations as well. You are feisty and you are fearless and you are such a champion for the dogs of Detroit. How are things going on the donation side? Because during the pandemic, you do have a lot of people who don't have the extra money that maybe they had at one time, or even the corporations that previously would maybe donate. What is that looking like for DDR on the donation front?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Detroit Dog Rescue is always there to help everybody else. Like you said, we help other organizations, we help people in the community. And what we're seeing now is people aren't sure about their own financial future. And we have seen a decline in donations and gifts at Detroit Dog Rescue, which is very hard because we're still trying to build a second facility on the west side of Detroit that will allow us more space. But our operations really relies on public gifts. We get a few grants, and those are fantastic. And the Bissell Pet Foundation has paid for all of our spay and neuters this year. But we still, we have 100 dogs at any given time. They all need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have training and cleaning supplies, and the electric bill and the water bill. I mean, you can imagine what these things cost when you're dealing with just hundreds of dogs. And then not to mention the medical costs are tens of thousands of dollars per month. Detroit Dog Rescue sees the worst of the worst. This isn't a scenario where dogs come in on Friday and they're adopted by Sunday. We're getting dogs from Detroit police that have been shot in raids. Firefighters have found dogs with carbon monoxide poisoning. So a lot of different scenarios that require a lot of medical attention. So, this year is rough. We are seeing a decline in donations. If anybody wants to help, they can go to DetroitDogRescue.com and please donate. If you can, become a reoccurring donor each month so we know what we're working with each month. And a lot of times people will say, I can only give $5. And I always say, $5 feeds a shelter dog for an entire week. And it truly does. So $5 is so much to a dog at Detroit Dog Rescue.
So maybe go ahead and skip your Starbucks for the day and give that money instead to DDR. Do you take donations as well? Like if someone has a pet that maybe passed away and they have some of their bedding or their clothing. I'm thinking we have all these Halloween costumes that were Katie's.
Yes,
they're not going to fit Trixie any longer. So we have so much from our other pets. Like, do you take those donations as well?
We absolutely do. We have right now, we had to close some of our donation locations because of the pandemic, but right now we have a donation location in Walled Lake, Troy, and Berkeley, Michigan, where you can bring your supplies to donate and to drop off. And we also have an Amazon wish list on our website as well of supplies that we need. But we absolutely will take old collars, leashes, Halloween costumes. We actually use them in photo shoots and get dogs adopted. So, we'll take just about anything and utilize it.
Kristina Rinaldi with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. Just a couple more minutes with you. I have to ask you, beside DDR, you're also a mom with 2 kids. How are you dealing with all of this? Just juggling everything has to be stressful.
Yeah, it's a really stressful time. Like any mom out there, figuring out the online schooling and then getting dogs adopted. But I'm really grateful that I get to go to work every single day and see dogs and be with dogs and just meet the most incredible people. And I will say, I do a lot of interviews and I get a lot of credit, but I have an amazing team that has stepped up, that has rearranged their hours, that has rearranged their lives. Every time we had a protocol change during COVID, anything we had to do, this team really stepped up, from our kennel attendants to our trainers, our adoption coordinators. So I know that I'm grateful to work with these people every day. Not once did anyone say that they weren't coming in, that they were too scared. Everybody really went into rescue mode and knew that this is our job and this is what we're here to do. And we've been going for 6 or 8 months strong here and doing whatever we have to do to get the dogs of Detroit adopted. But working with incredible people, working with incredible dogs, it makes it a lot easier.
How do you handle the emotional toll? Because as you said, some of these dogs are in really bad shape when they come in. It has to break your heart sometimes. Are there days that you just break down in tears and say, I can't do this again?
Absolutely. I don't think I would be human if I did, but I have this saying, I allow myself every once in a while to cry in the shower, and that's it. Once I get out of the shower, this is what I was truly meant to do. I love it. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I equate it to, kind of like a trauma surgeon. When they go into that trauma bay and it's time for them to do surgery and save a life, then, you kind of got to mask up, and no pun intended, and go for it and do it. It's the same thing when I arrive on the scene with Detroit Police or the Detroit Fire Department, or I go into Detroit Animal Care and Control. We have a job to do. But what makes it easier for me is, maybe that trauma surgeon doesn't know the outcome a few years down the line. I will say on my social media, I'm friends with the majority of the adopters that adopt our dogs. I see them grow up or go through life and, acclimate to their family and what happy lives they have. So, and I'm talking, seeing the worst of the worst cases. Like I said, dogs that have been shot or burned, or, fighting dogs. And we turn their lives around, and to be able to see what they mean to another family, it makes it so much easier to go in during the critical time and rescue these dogs.
Rescue dogs, I feel like, are the best dogs, and they know it. They definitely know when they've been rescued. Kristina, quickly before we let you go, what is on the top of your donation wish list that you need right now, and how can people donate or find out more about DDR?
Absolutely. We are in dire need of puppy food, paper towel, and bleach. So we took in a lot of pregnant stray mothers, and they have given birth recently. We have a lot of puppies in foster that are getting ready to find their homes, but we really need puppy food. And you can find all of our listed items at DetroitDogRescue.com. But anytime you can buy a dog or a puppy dinner, it's greatly appreciated.
I love puppy kisses. I want puppy kisses. They always have that puppy breath. Tyler's looking at me like I'm a wackadoodle over here.
No way.
Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Everyone, Kristina Rinaldi with the Detroit Dog Rescue. Go on, check them out, donate if you can, and help a little puppy and help a little dog. Kristina, thank you so much. Feisty, fearless Kristina, that's how I know you. By the way, people didn't know this. Kristina used to also be a rapper. So, do you want to rap for us before we let you go?
We will do that at another time. I'm actually running into a meeting, but we'll do a whole nother segment on talent in the area, which you will have to be part of that segment.
Well, have a happy day. We appreciate your time here on the Oakland County MegaCast.